If you remember, in the last session, I have used a blank screen. Sorry, let me refresh this again. If you remember, on our last session, we created the screen using a blank screen and a template. This time I'm going to use a PSD file to design my screen. Click on it to select a design PSD file and open it. Save the PSD file to upload on your screen. I'm showing some error right now. Okay, let me log in into another again. I'm going to log in into my account again. Sorry for the inconvenience. So let's upload the PSD here. Here I took a PSD file, so that time that it is going to consume for creating a screen, it would help me to minimize that. So this is the screen that you're looking here. Is a design that I just uploaded. So my main intention here is to show the table view feature that is a listing screen. This is a static design you are seeing right now. So how am I going to populate the table view with the data? Of course, for that I need a data on my table. And I need an API which is providing me the data to show on my table list, isn't it? So let me add an API on a data source. I have already created an API named as product listing, which is giving me an output like name, image, and a price. Save it. Here, my main intention is to show the product onto my table view. So I need to map the controls which I have in my table cell with the output. So how am I going to do that? On an object tree, there is a control known as image view. Here, there is a property known as key name to data. This is very important for us to map the output to the control received by web service. So when you click on it, you'll find the number of outputs that you are getting from your web service. So right now it's an image. So click on image to map it. Similarly, you can do the same for a label control and map with a similar name to the product name. I'm going to repeat the process for the price too. Here, our next control, I'm going to keep it as a price. Now that we have mapped our output with the control, we need to call an API to load this data into our table view. So whenever the table view is loaded, we need the data to get loaded on a table view. This is the main advantage of using a table view to make our list dynamic. So on a load, call an API, which we just took on our data source, that is product list. Save it. Now check on our simulator here. Before doing that, I have to set the default place. Listing place. Save it. Now let's see the changes on a Configure.IT application. Download the app. It might take some time to download for the first time on the application. This is the screen that we just configured. Now you can see here, within a minute, or within a few minutes, I have populated my listing view. Right? So you can see how simply I did this using the table view control on my project. Moving forward, you can see here 20 to 25 data on my list. But what if I want to load a large chunk of data? Of course, loading a large data together means either it's going to take a lot of time for your application to load, or your application might crash. So I have to apply a logic here to divide the large chunk of data into a fraction. For that, you need to provide a limit on your API. There is a business logic involved both on API and your screen design. So let's go to the backend for providing a limit to your API data. The API that I have taken is a product list. So let's go to the configuration, API configuration. Here, I'll provide a limit to the number of responses that I'm getting from an API. Right now, I have selected it as an all. So I have to provide the pacing. Enable it. And you can select number of data or number of items that you want to display on your screen. Right now, I'm selecting as a 5. Now, when you limit your data, you need to call an API or load an API. Each time when you load, you want other next data to view on your application. Save it and execute. Refresh it to see the changes. So whenever you added a pacing, you'll get an input here as a pace index. And when you execute it, you'll get the 3 parameters. That is current pace index, previous pace index, and next pace index. This is by default here. Now, on a configuration part, my main intention here is to show the pagination concept. Let's see in our preview the changes that I did on my API. I provided a limitation of 5 records on my API. So I will be getting only 5 records on my preview. Let's see I get the expected result or not. So you can see here I can only get 5 results, right? So, but logic here is whenever I load my screen or scroll down my screen, I need to get more data from my table, right? So this logic you have to implement from an API. Click on your data source to get the input params. Let me refresh my screen again. Now I have to provide the business logic on my screen design, which is I'm going to get from an input pattern. Here I have kept, so whenever I kept an input pattern on an API, it is reflected over here. This page index is used to determine the next index that has to be loaded on your screen. For that, give a response and select other. Here, you got an output as current page. So, on the next call, I want to show the current page plus 1. That is, I want to point out to the next page. This parameter or this variable will point to the next page on an API. Save it. Table view comes up with the properties, that is, whenever you scroll down, you need to call an API. So we need to have an action for that, isn't it? So on a table view next page, this is the event that is going to be triggered whenever you scroll down your screen. So on click of it, call an API again. Save it. Let's check the changes. Here, whenever I scroll my screen down, I have to get more data from my table. So the main concept of pagination is to show your data in an effective way. I missed one point over here, that is the token ID. Whenever you get the responses, you have to set here a token page to a next page. This will point towards the next page. Now check the changes. You should get the expected output now. You can see over here the load more icon. So whenever you scroll down, you're going to see that. The benefit of this is that you're showing it in an effective way. Your data are properly managed on the screen. Now that you're loading a data that was already present on your table. But what if you want to show new data updated on your table? So usually on your application, whenever you scroll down, your data gets refreshed and new data gets updated. So how am I going to configure that over here? With a simple configuration, I'm going to refresh my screen to load new data. Here, you have an action known as table pull refresh. And this event is triggered whenever you pull down your screen, new data will be reflected on your screen. So the logic involved here is calling an API again to load your data again from your table. Isn't it simple? Test on your screen. Here I'm going to scroll down my screen to see the changes. So you can see over here a pull to refresh sign and a refresh icon is visible. So every time I pull down, the new data will be updated here. Right now I don't have any new data, so it is not showing me. Moving forward, if you want any table cell to get deleted, how am I going to implement a delete feature onto my application? So It is as simple as I did this action over here. We have a functionality called table swipe delete. Right? Normally on your iOS application, whenever you swipe right on your cell, you get a delete button. So whenever you click on it, you'll get your data deleted. But right now, I'm not able to see that. Let me configure it. Here, on action, we have a table swipe delete action. This event is triggered whenever you swipe your cell. Here, define an action that is change table properties. Change table properties is used for table view features. Select an option from a drop-down as a delete and save it. This will delete your data on a cell whenever you swipe left and click on delete. Let's check or test either our delete functionality is working well on our app or not. The deletion that I'm doing here is a local deletion. Swipe delete and you will get the delete option. Click on delete and it will delete your record. When you do this deletion, it is not the deletion that you are doing on a server side. It deletes your record from your application, not from a server side. So when you want to delete your data permanently from your database or server, you need to provide or call an API on a swipe delete. Here we just provided a change table properties. Instead of that, provide an API if you want to delete permanently a data from your server. Save it. It didn't even take me a minute to configure a deletion property on my list screen. Now that we have covered some of the portion of table view features, I want to select some of the data on my list. I want to select some cells here. So what can I do? Implement the single selection or a multiple selection on my table view. To show that, I want to take a button control on my table cell. I'm taking here a button just as an indicator for you to know the changes that I'm doing over here. I resized my button. Let me change the position. Now, button comes up with the two state if you toggle the button. Let me first toggle my button. Here, I have taken a button and I will keep the two fields. First of all, let me toggle my button to make it as a selected and unselected state. Okay. Click on toggle. This will make your button gives two states like selected and unselected. On key name to data, pass the parameter or give the variable as is selected. This variable will help to find either your state is selected or unselected. Now, here I'm going to provide a normal image as an indicator for unselected state, and similarly I'm going to provide a selected image to show the selection of your cell. Let me choose an image for it. This is perfect. Now, Add a background color. I'll set it as a none right now. Save it. Now whenever you want to do selection, you have to provide a feature on a table view. On which button is, like, which control do you want to select as a single selection view ID, you need to choose from here. So provide a view ID for selection, the button which we just took. Save it. Now this will show you selection of your cell. You can check on your application. So what I'm going to do here is on selection of a cell, the button should be checked to show the checked state or selected state. I guess I have missed some point here. S toggle, I have done it, selected state image. Table cell, I provided here selection view as button 1. Now if you want on a selection, you want some ID to get passed, or you want to use some ID for another API, you can provide a selection key over here. Right now I'm going to provide a selection key as the response that I'm getting from our API. Let me refresh my screen and see the changes. So whenever I click on a row, my row should be selected. Let me check on my button, the selected state is configured properly or not. Let me add the selected state again. Now, this is the way to show the selection of your cell. Moving forward, there are many instances when you want to select your data from your list. I want to add some more features into my list screen. So to make it more dynamic and effective, I want to add a search bar into my application. You can drag and drop your search bar from your native controls into the table. Right now, I already have a search bar on my screen, so the PST files. So I'm going to use this search bar. You can implement search in two types, that is online search and a local search. For local search, it selects the items only from the API that has loaded your information on your table view. So for that, now you need to provide a parent view to your search bar. Click on the property bar to get the property and set the object ID or object parent ID as a table view. Now, what it does is whenever you enter the key term or a selection term on your search bar, it will reflect on your table view. The main point on our local search is you need to provide a table view to reflect your search data on a table view. Let's see it is working or not. Let's provide a name for a search with which the searching will be done. Let's check on a Configure.IT the application is running as expected or not. So whenever I type a keyword related to a product name, it should reflect on my screen. So every term which is related to a motto is reflecting on my screen. So this is how the local search is done. What if you want a search and want to search from online or from an API? So for that, you need to enable an online search on your search bar. Now, the main logic here, the business logic that we normally do on a search bar is you provide a keyword and that keyword is given as an input to an API. So with which the API will search on a table your data. So let's go to our backend where we need to provide an input parameter into an existing listing API. Go to the configuration, API detail, and add an input parameter as a keyword. Remember, this keyword we are entering from a search bar. Update and next. To go to the configuration section. So right now we have to check the item from a table related to the keyword, right? So on a where condition, check your product name with the keyword. You can apply a search with respect to your pricing or any other fields as your requirement. Right now I'm giving as a product name. Save it. This is the logic that we applied on our API section. Now there's still some portion left to do in our screen design. Let's provide a logic here. So whenever you search, you have to provide an input. As you give the input on your API, refresh this, and you will get the input reflected here, which you gave on your API. As I told you before, the keyword that you're getting is from an object that is search bar. Click on a search bar and save it. Now, on a search bar, your selection, you have number of action over here. You can start selection whenever you start typing to provide an action on a search click. That is, whenever you click on a search on your keypad, it will get triggered. So right now here, as we have already provided refresh your application to see the changes. Click on the search bar and type the term. On click of the search keyword on a keypad, you can see here you're getting the expected output as 2 records are given from a table, as it is matching with the data in a table. Now, on click of cancel, or I want to get my data back, how am I going to configure that? So for that, I need to do some changes, provide some action on a search bar. Right now, it is just reflecting us a data which is matching with the keyword. On cancel click, I want those items to appear again. All the lists should be visible on my screen. For that, on a text cleared action, you can provide the same or trigger the same API again. For that, use the change object properties and reload the table view. When the text is cleared, the next time when the API is getting called, any keyword is not passing. So it will reflect all the data again on our application. Refresh to see the changes. Here I'm going to enter the keyword again as motto, search it. Now on click of text cleared, I want all the records to be populated on my list again. Cancel, and I'm getting my all records back on my application. So with this, I have covered number of features of table view. Now most of the questions come from the client that how can we move from one screen to another screen on a table cell click. For that, we have a property called table select row. So whenever you click on tables, any cell, you want to redirect to a product listing. Right? So to configure that on table view, you have an action known as table select row. This event is triggered whenever you click on any cells. So you can define any action that you want to do it over here. But right now, I want to redirect from my list of product to the details screen, right? So provide an action for redirection. Here you'll get a number of options. Either you want to put an animation while redirecting and select the screen over here, that is product detail. This is the screen that I have already configured on my application. So I've selected the screen which I want to redirect. Remember, product detail is the screen that I have already pre-configured and made ready onto my application so that it will be easy while showing you how it is working or the working of it. So let's check either on clicking up a table row, I'm going to Am I redirecting to the correct screen or not? So let's click on any cell. And you can see me, I got redirected to the product details screen. Similarly, check with other details. So with the help of a product ID, it is giving me a respected detail page of each data. So how did I configure the product detail screen on my application? Let's go to the product screen. Here, in a data source, I have already added a product description API to get a detail of my product. So you need to pass here a product ID which is coming from the previous page. The parent source previous page is used whenever you want to get the ID or any output from the previous page. So select the previous page and provide the respective ID with which you want to fetch the detail and save it. As I did on a listing page, I have just mapped the output of the product description API with the controls available on the screen so that you can see the product details on your application. With this, our webinar for today is ended with some of the features on our. Let's see, we have got some queries here regarding today's webinar session. Okay. For more detail on table view and the possibilities and features that you can apply on a table view, please download our app called Viewers, and you can check plenty of examples in there. Also, the whole app is available as one of the projects which you can browse to see how all configurations are done. Now let's move on to the queries for today's session. And I have already got a list of questions here. Let me go one by one. How can we apply animation on a table view? This is the query asked by one of our users. To apply animation on your table view, select a table view, and you have an option there, a property to enable animation on a table row. So you can apply enable row animation and see the changes. So you can either animate to right or back and select the animation type from a drop down. Next queries. Okay, there is a question that says, how can I show menu and submenu in a table view? Okay, so you want something like a menu and a submenu. To provide that, you need to select the control known as section header. Section header comes up in our control that you can drag and drop on top of your table view. To drag and drop your table section header, you need to enable section header on your table view property. Enable the section header and you can drag and drop your control. This is how we use menu and submenu as your query. Let's move on to our second queries. It's the third. Okay. On our contact list, we have an index. How can an index be added on a table view? Okay, this is a very good question. For this, on your table view, you have a property known as enable indexing. Enable indexing. So you can enable this And remember here, to enable indexing, you need to enable section header. You need to add section header too. So with this, you'll get the index, and you can make some changes, or you can add some changes on your indexes. Hope this is helpful. Let's go to another query. Table swipe delete, you showed a red delete button. But what if I want to customize this button? So our user wants to customize the button that we just got while swiping the table cell. So how can we do that? We have a property for a table cell. Let's check here. Okay, we have here a cell left swipe view ID. So right now we are getting a delete button. You can add one view over there, and you can add any buttons which you want for delete, for share. You can add that button and give that view as a view here, cell left view ID. You can select that view here. In this way, you can customize your delete buttons. Another query here I got is, I want to make my screen more attractive and dynamic. So can I make it an expandable table view? So on click of button, the table expands. Okay, for that, right now we have taken a table view on to show the listing view. For showing the expandable table view, we have another control available, that is expandable table view control list. Drag and drop this expandable table view instead of a table view. So there are some properties that you have to use, and this is certainly possible here. Let's move on towards another query. So this is the last question that we have for today. How can you add edit option on your table cell like you did for delete? Okay. This is a nice question too. As you recognize, on my swipe delete, okay, on my table listing, I provided the action on swipe delete, if you remember. That is change table properties. On here, you'll get an option for edit too. When you apply this, you'll get an edit option on your screen. With this, we came to an end to our webinar session. If you have any queries, you can mail us or you can raise a ticket. On upcoming webinar series, we are going to come with more use cases. Till then, and thanks for your participation. The next webinar will be on Tuesday, same time. We will cover miscellaneous settings on your application that includes some really useful functionalities on your applications. And please don't forget about the Gears application which we have on our App Store. You can download it and you can see the configuration, how we are doing on that application. Bye, and hope to see you same time on next Tuesday. Thank you.